we are discussing integrating copyrighted materials into the classroom. Specifically, we're going over whether or not you can use copyrighted materials in your class. So, to start, I'm at the library homepage, library.tamucc.edu, and I'm going to go over to our research guides or subject guides located underneath the quick search bar. Our research guides or subject guides are organized by subject, so I have a guide on copyright and fair use located under scholarly communication. Another way you can find our guides is also by browsing via all guides, and these are organized by alphabet. So if I scroll down to copyright and fair use, I can find our copyright and fair use guide. So this guide gives a much more detailed overview of what copyright is, what copyright holders' rights are, what you can and cannot do with copyrighted materials as researchers and instructors. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about teaching with copyrighted works. So utilizing copyrighted works in the classroom is a right that you have as an instructor under several different copyright laws, specifically the TEACH Act and then of course the Fair Use Act. If you are unfamiliar with either of these, please look at the material on this guide. But today we are going to look at this copyright decision chart. So if you have an article or a book chapter that you want to use in your course, first we need to consider, is the material copyrighted at all? There are materials that are considered in the public domain. These are things that never had copyright, things such as materials created by the federal government, because the things created by the federal government are created under American tax dollars, so Americans have the right to utilize the materials however they need to. Also, copyright does expire after a certain amount of time. Copyright law has been kind of hit or miss over the years, but it's safe to say things that were created prior to 1924 are in the public domain. There are some other exceptions to this, and there is a tool called the Public Domain Slider that can help you determine if your material is under copyright or in the public domain. Let's say the material you want to use is actually covered by copyright. The next thing to consider is it open access? There are alternative copyright licenses that have been used by copyright holders and instructors over the past several years. The most common is called the Creative Commons licenses. They are several different licenses, which basically explains to copyright users of copyrighted material, you can use my work without seeking permission or a specific license under these certain terms. And these terms are things like, share it with your students as long as you're not making money on it, it's a non-commercial use, you can use it. Things like that are addressed under the Creative Commons licenses. If you are unfamiliar with open access or Creative Commons licenses, we do have a separate subject guide on this matter, and of course you can always contact me or someone in the library to discuss. Okay, so let's say the material you want to use is not covered by an open access license and it is under traditional copyright. Okay, so the next thing we have to decide is, does the library have access to this article? I'm going to go back to our library homepage, which is the other tab I have open here, and I'm going to search for an article to see if our library has access to it. If it does, it's really quick and easy. Excellent. Here is the article I want to use, so I can easily grab the link here. It's called a permalink. I can copy this and then upload it into my Blackboard course. Now, you may be wondering, why would I link to something if I could just download the PDF myself and then upload it to Blackboard? Isn't that easier for me and my students? A best practice to remain copyright compliant in Blackboard is to link rather than upload. A simple way to ensure copyright compliance is to avoid uploading material to Blackboard when possible. Rather than uploading a PDF of an article, provide a hyperlink or permalink, if available, to the article. Rather than uploading a PDF of a book chapter, provide a permalink to the ebook in the library's catalog. Linking to materials is not copyright infringement. You are not copying or reproducing the material. So, copyright compliance is one reason we ask you to link rather than provide a PDF directly to your students. There are a couple of other reasons why we ask you to do this. One is for our own internal library data use of our materials. If you as a faculty member download one article and provide access of the PDF to your dozens or hundreds of students, from the library's perspective, we see that as one download or one use. But if you direct your students to the library and they download the source themselves, that can count as dozens or hundreds of downloads. So when we're looking at our download numbers and deciding to keep a resource or not based on use, hundreds is more of an argument than a handful or several dozen. The third reason we ask you to direct your students to the library is so that your students can become familiar with utilizing library resources. So when it comes to them doing their own research and using the library, they are more familiar. Okay, so I've gone over whether the library has access to the work. Now I can link that in Blackboard. What if the library doesn't have access to it? There are situations where the library may not provide access to the material itself, but we are paying a license fee so that you can use it in your Blackboard course. How to find that out is to use what is called WriteFind. So I'm going to make this box go away and scroll back up to the right-hand box over here. You can check the academic license with WriteFind. I'm going to go into WriteFind. If you haven't used WriteFind before, you can create an account. It's free, it's quick, 30 seconds or so. I used my TAMUCC email when I registered, so I'm going to sign in. Okay, something to note here. When you are searching in WriteFind, you need to search by the publication title or the ISSN or ISBN. So if you're searching for an article, you need to search by the journal title or the journal ISSN. If you are looking for a book chapter, you need to enter the book title or the ISBN of that book. So since I used Pride and Prejudice as an example before, I'm going to use Pride and Prejudice again. So something to keep in mind, like I said, searching for the ISBN, there are different publication versions. So Oxford University Press, we have license terms that we can use this. Dover, we do not. So let's pretend that I want to use the Oxford University Press version. How can I use this copyrighted content? Digital sharing, there are terms, and photocopy sharing, there are terms. The terms are very straightforward. If I click on it, it tells me exactly what I can and cannot do with the material. So I can use the material in an e-course pack, in an electronic reserve, in a course management system. So I can put this material straight into Blackboard with no copyright issue. So I can post this in Blackboard and I do not have a copyright infringement issue. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my copyright decision chart. So we've gone over, is it in the public domain? Is it open access? Does the library have access to it? Or is the library paying a license fee so that I can provide it to my students without worrying about infringing copyright? Okay, so let's say none of that is true. My next step is considering whether I have a fair use argument or if my use is covered by the TEACH Act. Again, this guide goes over fair use and the TEACH Act, but if you need help deciding whether or not you can utilize materials covered by these exemptions in the copyright law, please contact the library. If you decide that your use is not covered by the Fair Use or TEACH Act, or you do not have a strong argument in favor for fair use or the TEACH Act, you can submit a request to place materials on eReserve in the library. Essentially what this means is that you submit a request and then we will try to pay for the rights in RightFind and grant you access to do that. How you do that. You go back to our library homepage. So I'm going to open up a new tab, go to library, and we have resources for our faculty. And then we have lots of helpful links here, and under course materials and support, we have place digital materials in Blackboard. So this goes over course reserves, physical course reserves, and placing materials on electronic reserve. So these instructions go over how to submit that request, which is the final piece of that copyright decision-making chart. And then below are directions for adding electronic course reserves to Blackboard if you submit a request and your request is approved. And again, we will go over how to properly link materials into Blackboard, as well as add materials from electronic course reserves to Blackboard in a separate tutorial. Thank you. I hope that this has answered some questions. If not, please reach out to the library. If you have questions about the technical uploading of items to Blackboard, you can contact libreserves@tamucc.edu. And if you have questions about utilizing copyrighted materials in the classroom, you can always email librarycopyright@tamucc.edu. Thank you.